How was your experience working with Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam sir, the Homi Bhabha, the Vikram Sarabhai?
Science is not individual glory. It is a collective effort of beautiful minds. Concentrate your mind, define the problem, design the solution, and always look for deliverables. So questioning why, that is the lifeblood of science. I am a scientist if and only if I ask a testable question, which can be experimented upon. And if it is wrong, science gives you the freedom. I am wrong, I'll do it again. We are standing on the shoulders of greater scientists.
Why is this race happening in India to become engineer, doctor?
At the moment, our education decisions is a strong function of the income of the family.
Why is science not so accessible? And if it is accessible, why is it not reaching to the people at ground level?
Science, pure science, blue sky research, fundamental science. If we are trying to explain that to the people, that is only at a cultural level. They are not going to do, people will not start research on it.
Today, we are meeting with a personality and it feels like a lifetime achievement for both me and Akhil. It's so rare to even meet. We say in Hindi ki Bhagwan ke darshan ho gaye. So I'm personally having that feeling and gratification after meeting Dr. A.P. Jayaraman sir. So sir has worked with the Homi Bhabha, the Vikram Sarabhai, and the Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam, right? And sir has made immense contribution to science and research in India. The reason probably we are able to live the life we are living is because of scientists like sir who have built the backbone of India. And we are so grateful to meet you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My privilege.
And thank you so much for inviting us at your home. We are shooting this podcast exclusive. Probably first time you're going to see such type of podcast in India, where we bring the real life scientist to you, and hopefully we all will learn and as much as possible. Sir, first question to me: how was your experience working with the Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam sir, the Homi Bhabha, the Vikram Sarabhai?
Great minds, beautiful minds, they make you think and they make you work in a team. The most important thing I want to drive home is this: science is not individual glory. It is a collective effort of beautiful minds. Gone are the days when Newton could do something, Galileo could do something. Today, science is a completely organized, coordinated activity. You need teamwork. The better the team, the greater the success. So science is a social endeavor, is an institutional endeavor. And individuals give energy to that. But some leaders, thought leaders, they come to the front. So that's fine, but they lead. We have to do it. It's a grassroots affair. And only when science becomes a grassroots affair, we will be able to have a scientific society, a stable society. That is the beauty about it. So we have to see science from that philosophical angle. It is an organized social endeavor. This is the first thing I want. But then you have to do your individual contribution. So there you have to be the best. You should have no other distractions with you. Concentrate your mind, define the problem, design the solution, and always look for deliverables. Science should deliver you goods and services. And most of you would have heard in our class, in my younger days, in fact, Mendeleev's mother asked him to say, Mendeleev, have you asked a question today in the class? Have you asked a good question today? So questioning why, that is the lifeblood of science. But the point is, I should ask only testable questions. If I ask you a number of questions, million questions, I'm not a scientist. I am a scientist if and only if I ask a testable question, which can be experimented upon. And if it is wrong, science gives you the freedom. I am wrong, I'll do it again. So science is a culture. Science is a faith. It has its own protocols, rules, and governance. So we are part of a system. Today, science is a huge system. I would like to put this in the beginning because whenever you see a scientist saying, This scientist has done everything. We are standing on the shoulders of greater scientists. Every young scientist starting their career is as a heritage, as a science capital. And that science capital helps her to stand up on the shoulders of accumulated knowledge and take one step forward. And we are looking forward to that one step. So that is the general. And the young generation, it is their social scientific responsibility. You have to apply science. Only a scientific society will be stable economically and sustainable. So this is a philosophical framework within which the new generation should look at science.
Sir, how was your experience and how did you meet for the first time Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam?
Oh, that we may have met in a guest house in Atomic Energy Establishment. He was staying there, and he's so simple. And in the evening, you get time to talk to him, and he will tell you stories. He will not only tell stories; he will tell my stories to other young children. He wanted me to be a transmitter of science stories, and he used to narrate in such beautiful precision. Once he told me a story. Take 2 glasses, fill them with milk, put 2 frogs into that, and see how they behave. One will jump and jump and jump, may come out. Other one will resign to its fate, go deep and die. So the energy and enthusiasm required to create bubbles in milk, then get out. That's one story. So he is very fond of this particular story of telling children the capacity, their ability to create an environment in which the survival instinct is very high. So this frog, which has the survival instinct, will come out. And once we had a very interesting session. We were sitting, he wears an inner wear. So there was this number of small holes, 2 or 3. So I asked him, sir, what is the maximum number of holes an inner wear can have? So that we will evaluate. It is not the number of inner holes important, it is the diameter of the inner holes which is important. See, a man who sees things from a perspective which you have never thought of, that is creativity at its best. In very small things, he will have originality and something which, a brave new concept or something. That's a rare, I would say, feature of genius. He is not speaking to you about equations. He is talking to you about very little small things of life. These are indelible impressions which remain with you. This is how great minds think. Not in terms of equations or graphs. So there are so many anecdotes about him. But these 2 were personally because he used to be with us in the guest house in a very relaxed mood. The finest of his sayings will come when he is relaxed. This is something which I remember.
Sir, I remember when we met for the first time last year in Kerala. You were telling at your time, Homi Bhabha's mother used to give the degree of your BARC training school, and you were from 8th BARC training school. So how was that journey? How was your interactions with the legendary Homi Bhabha and the first batch, the initial batch of the BARC scientists who contributed to the nuclear program of what it is today and what India sees ahead the future of nuclear power?
Right. Now, this is called Homi Bhabha's training school.
Yeah.
Some colleges, we are going back to a school.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we go from a college to a school? Because Homi Bhabha strongly believed that the university products, graduates and postgraduates, are not sufficient for the atomic energy program. They need very special multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary education. So he started a training school. That was the work. And that was one of the most historic academic experiments which was done by him, which produced, in fact, he said, when nuclear energy has been applied for successful power production in the country, you will not have to look abroad for its experts. You will find them ready at hand. With this declaration, he started the training. So we started with the first batch, 1957-58, and from the 8th batch. And that was the last batch where he was present for the graduation ceremony. 1966. Eighth batch is the last batch. And his mother always said that it's an affectionate bondage between them. So that was, I would say, a divinely inspired moment where you could see that we never knew that. History now says that was the last event we had. So that's one of the things which we remember and which is deeply embedded in our mind. A great man and his mother in an academic setting. And we happened to be the last batch. We never thought. We thought many more batches will have this bliss. History was very cruel.
And sir, you met Vikram Sarabhai as well. How was the experience?
Yes, I met Dr. Sarabhai. In fact, I had worked with him for about 2 to 3 years. My career in science communication started with Dr. Sarabhai. At that time, space research was in its infancy. He was the chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission, and the Atomic Energy Commission was looking after space research also. So 1970, Expo 70 World Exposition, Osaka, Japan. He wanted atomic energy and space research dreams and goals to be explained to the world at large. So I was selected by him for going to the Expo 70, remaining there 7 months, explaining every day to all the visitors coming from different countries what his dream was for both on atomic energy and space sciences. And what samples we had was that baby rockets, Rohini, Manega, 75mm, 125. He asked me, take this, go there. And standing there in Osaka, I explained this to the people. So my career in science communication started with him. Otherwise, scientists don't go for straight away career in science communication. That was my turning point. My interaction with him, not his interaction with me, was a turning point in my life to come to the soft skill development of science communication. Otherwise, hardcore science on one side, but now the skill to communicate to the common man what his scientific dreams are: nuclear powered agro-industrial complex and space. Those were two big verticals. So I was explaining that. That's my interaction.
How did you decide to pursue science? Because even today, a lot of people, students, and parents are very skeptical about career in science. They think after bachelor's and master's whether my son is going to get the job or not, what kind of job he or she will get, what will be the earning potential, the salary. Because at the end, everybody has to feed their family, and during that era, at your time, it would have been much more difficult, right? You were born before independence. So
Yes.
how did you decide to pursue a career in science?
Very intricate question. Extremely. Now I had to look back. What I would say is I am an accidental product in science. My father was not a scientist. This decision was taken at grandparental level. My grandfather, grandfather, he was a lawyer with 2 degrees. He said, in this life, you must have at least 1 degree. That means you must go to college. That was the only decision we have taken. And then the choice is you can have the humanities, liberal arts, or standard forms. So he said, take one science and then we can improve upon it later. You can go to humanities. So I went for. So when I did my BSc, the employment market has been surveyed by my grandfather. He said the best thing you can have in 1964, in the middle 1960s, is to become an IAS officer, a district collector. You will become, and you have the right to certify, attest. That is considered a great privilege in those days. If my grandson can certify and attest in this area, he felt his innate ego. So that was the idea. So when my BSc was over, he said, you won't get into IAS with a BSc. You must have a master's. You told me in the same college. My college is very near to my house, about 5 kilometers. He said, join for MA. They may give you admission in MA English because your marks in English in BSc is very good. So I applied for admission to masters in English. At that time, we saw the advertisement of the Atomic Energy Establishment. There he said, BSc first class people may also apply. There is a small number of seats there. He said, you also apply? So I applied. And while coming for the interview, many people from my area, including my professors were called tutors in those times. So I, along with my tutor, came by train to Mumbai. He taught me everything in chemistry, physical chemistry. This they might ask you about electrochemistry. You should give this answer. I was tutored thoroughly, and we together traveled. He also appeared for the interview. I also appeared for the interview. After the interview, there's a small sheet of paper in which it will be written DATA. And collect DATA, go home. In some paper it will be written MD, medical division. So when I looked at it, I found medical division, not DATA. So went for medical examination. So got it. Now, then I asked my professor, sir, how you are a gold medalist? I am one of your average. In fact, I would call myself average. You would have spoken well, he said. So probably my professor was saying communicating science is more important than knowing science.
So is he bedridden or he's all right?
Yeah, bedridden, dress has to be put, has to be brought in
Oh,
and kept like an eye. When his son was doing that, son has gone. Son is a Padmashri, malaria specialist in France. Oh, at that time I should have known that Space Commission chairman was there. I mean, we were crowded one room. He could not come
So
out.
do you have connection with the ISRO chairman, the current ISRO chairman?
Current when I met him and his wife.
So you have
He was not very inspiring. The previous man is very inspiring.
Somnath.
He has
Do
given
you
8
have
interviews.
any connect with him?
He gave 8 interviews for HNA.
Okay, sir.
8 interviews.
So he is very famous, like, and yeah, he speaks.
Shouting out. He spoke even about connection with Israel, which normally he should not have spoken. Outright. But Radhakrishnan is somewhere in your side, former chairman.
Okay.
Director of IIT, Ropak.
Rupert. Okay. Okay.
Kathakali performer,
So,
musician, space
Dr.
chairman.
we wanted to have
Dr.
a podcast with
Somnath, yeah.
Somnath I will try.
So
He had
if
a
he-
problem with cancer.
Oh. So any previous directors, former director also is fine. Or-
Sri Lankan is dead.
former like,
Would you-
Somnath.
Somnath is ideal.
Ideal.
See, the first chairman is Madhavan Nair.
Yeah.
He was 1 year junior to me in the training school. He is from the 9th batch. He has not met Bhabas, but very bold man, but he is sick. Radha Krishnan is a brilliant bet if you can catch him. Very impressive. Oh, very sober.
He lives in
This I have
IT
only
worker.
WhatsApp contact with him now. He is a Kathakali player. He's a great musician. He plays Veena and Tabla and all that. Very good performance.
Dr. Somnath. You are connected.
I can. But right now I have to see his condition, whether he's on chemotherapy or.
So when did
He
this
gave 10 interviews to HNet.
Okay.
10.
Okay. So when did this happen? Like when did he had cancer?
While in the office towards the end, he had this. So he is braving.
But he is currently like I see him in public platforms.
Yeah,
Like,
because of this an urge. Now I must speak.
yeah,
Because my.
yeah.
Hey, we'll start.
we will start. So we were talking about
We were talking. The last thing we mentioned was
About the
Sarabhai's.
Sarabhai experience.
BARC.
So
Your decision about taking
Take-
Oh, yeah, I told
Yeah.
you. Then I went
English
training school.
Mhm.
Training school.
Sir, where did you grow up? How was your childhood like?
It's very interesting. I grew up in a very remote, God-forsaken village in Kerala. That place is called Vaniyangulam. It is famous for a cattle festival. Every week on Thursday, there will be a cattle market. Near that, there is a small school. So there is nothing conspicuous about my school. So I grew up in that school. But we had teachers who taught us good English. Teachers who taught us mathematics very well. I still remember my maths teacher and English teacher. insisting on accuracy and precision. Wren and Martin should be studied thoroughly. So English grammar we were taught thoroughly, even in that remote village. So we took a fascination of English. Right? Without looking at Wren and Martin, we will not write anything. So this idea of correcting your English with Wren and Martin came to me from my English teacher in the school. Let us say that's the only thing I remember back. Otherwise, it's a very standard school. There's nothing eventful in that. We don't have many events in the school. It's just below average school work we came.
So you completed your 10th and 12th from that school till 12th class?
I changed 2-3 schools because
Okay.
I stayed for some time, 5 days, 5 years in one school. Then a better school came up and went there. So there was a little migration in these schools. Maybe I think I studied in 4 schools till 12th.
Sir, how was your family background, about your father, about your mother?
Yes. My father is a technical expert. His business was to make knives, scissors, daggers. But he started a factory. He was an entrepreneur in the model, looking back. He's a technical entrepreneur. There was one engineer who came back to our village after training in Sheffield University, and he was a metallurgist. When he came, the metallurgist, he called all the people around him, let us start a metallurgical industry. So my village became a metallurgical center. We started making cutlery, knives, scissors, pen knives, electroplating and all. So my father started a small, ever sharp electroplating works. We started that factory. So what we do is, we get steel from the railways, they sell out. We make knives, scissors with that. We learned 2 processes. I was witness to 2 processes in electrochemistry. One called tempering. Tempering means take a material made in soft steel, heat it, suddenly dip it in an oil, and it will become sharp. That's called tempering. So that's an art. It's a skilled, masterly act. That was taught by a large number of technicians. So one metallurgist coming to a village was able to transmit this know-how transfer. Now today we have all these words. At that time there was nothing there. So they all learned how to temper and make a knife sharp. Then those were the days of bicycles. And bicycle handlebar has to be very shiny. And sometimes after a rain or so it will become dull, rusted. So we had a technique of electroplating this. And that was done by nickel plating. So the art of nickel plating. And to improve the nickel plating, we plate copper first and then nickel on copper. So I found it later when I look back at what my father was doing. But he was doing it repeatedly by almost like a master and the slave asking you to do it. That was a fact in those days. But I could find out a technical enterprise which brought good money for the family also. In those days, getting money in a village is very difficult. So this was a livelihood. I would say flourishing livelihood. And I inherently, I came to know that wealth creation or money can be made only by technical enterprise. So that was a thought planted in my mind by my father's daytime. And I used to go and watch how it's being done. So we have a history of entrepreneurship in the family.
After your high school, when your schooling was finished, did you have any confusion like we have today, what to do after my school?
Yes, this confusion today is, I would say, omnipresent. For us, there was no confusion. There were very little choices. When do you get confusion? When you have options.
So
If you have 2 watches, you don't know what is the right time. If you have only one watch, there is only one way of knowing the time. So for us, options were not available. Distance and logistics was the option. How far is the college? This college is 30 kilometers, that college is 100 kilometers. If you have a better college at 100 kilometers and the finances permit, you will go over. So choice was restricted. You don't have the options. You have a multiplicity of options now. We didn't have that. There was no parental interference. There was no grandfather. Whatever they decide. It's a decision of the family. The head of the family will decide this is what you will do, this is the college where you will go. So it is very simple.
So, sir, what options did you have?
Maybe I had an option between physics, chemistry, and biology. In PCB, should you take physics, chemistry, or biology? And the median one is chemistry. So I thought, let me have chemistry. And of course, this little electroplating business also. I mean, subconsciously, it have influenced me. Salts, nickel, cyanide poisonous, washing soda, sodium carbonate. So a few chemical names were there from my father's technical expertise.
So somewhere I read in that event poster, you were planning to get involved in the family business. When you choose to do a BSc in chemistry, then you change the plan. So how was that?
If you have a good running business, the normal tendency is to piggyback on it. But then I know that industry cannot be scaled further. And there are constraints and restraints on that industry. So I still kept my interest. In fact, for my BSc, my physics professor asked me to demonstrate plating. So I took it and demonstrated in the class. But learning, social mobility can be had only by education. If you want to go up intellectually, monetarily, this is what I call social mobility. And every generation should have a social mobility, one log cycle higher than the previous one. So my social mobility, my daughter's social mobility should be one cycle ahead. And my grandson's social mobility should be two log cycles ahead. So, and that is possible only through education. We are in a knowledge economy. So we should have a knowledge capital. And that knowledge capital should be constantly refurnished. So this is what I said. So I thought, although industry will support me, father is doing that, I should equip myself academically also. Let's see.
So who was your inspiration in science?
There were not many scientists in my village. And I wouldn't call my professors scientists. But some of my professors, like the physics professor, they brought a certain rigor and precision into thinking. Electrochemistry, or even say Boyle's law. See, there's a clarity in Boyle's. So that, I would say, the scientific mindset of looking at science as a method of doing things, that was created by my college professors, particularly my chemistry professors, and they went chemistry not by organic chemistry or inorganic chemistry, by my physical chemistry. Physical chemistry is the boundary between physics and chemistry. There I got a good grounding from Professor Warrior, who taught me physical chemistry. Let's see.
So, sir, how was your journey from BARC training school to retiring from BARC?
40 years in the nuclear sector, 4 decades, but 4 colorful decades. Usually scientists work in one area for 10 years, 15 years and become great names in science, publishing 200 papers and all that. This is standard practice, which every scientist does. I have changed my profession 8 times in 40 years. I started with industrial hygiene and toxicology. Within 2 years, I went to radiation hazard control. 1965. 1970, I went 3 years on science communication on the expo side.
Vikram
Sarabhai. Right? Then somebody told me, no, you have done good science communication, now come back. They asked me to do radioactive waste management. So I started doing radioactive waste management. I did 5 years. I managed low-level radioactive waste in my department. Then desalination was coming up. So I joined the desalination division. Then they added desalination for effluent engineering. So I worked there for some time. Then there was a need for scientific and technical expertise in purchase and stores, Directorate of Purchase and Stores. So I was deputed there. I worked there for some time. Then they said, no, okay, sufficient management skill is acquired. Now go to media relations. So wherever the department found that I could be used comfortably, I enjoyed the job I was given. But every time you change from one department, it's a great learning. And I am also a prisoner of the experience of my previous learning. So I have to unlearn what I have learned. Then I have to learn the new things. So I have changed. Different avatars were there on 40 long years. But every avatar I liked and appeared. And finally, looking after the media and science communication outreach programs, I retired from that. Only to start science communication as a new career, which I started in 1970. So I say, I did 40 years as a nuclear scientist and 60 years in science communication. That won't add up to 100. So that's concurrently I could do quite a lot. In fact, the ability to do things concurrently, that's also an advantage which I consider professional.
How did you actually reach BARC itself?
Oh, that is through advertisement. When the newspaper, all regional language papers also advertise BARC training school, 8th batch starting. And that's a huge advertisement. It cannot escape it. But if my grandfather had not been buying a newspaper in my place, probably I would never have seen it. So he buys the Hindu, that's an English paper, and is bilingual. In fact, bilinguality in science is very important. Particularly in science communication, you should always be able to communicate in two languages simultaneously. So my grandfather was having an English paper, the Hindu, and a Malayalam paper called Mathrubhumi. And in both I saw the advertisement. And if I had not seen that, I would not have applied for it.
And after your interview, you mentioned you were selected it was written medical division, right? How was your first day at BARC?
My goodness, it was the training school was a torture cell for most of us, particularly for the BScs along with the gold medalists of the MScs. We were all together. Luckily, my roommate was a MSc gold medalist, and two of us have to stay in the training house. For a BSc first class or whatever it is, picking up that knowledge at that state of art, cutting edge knowledge, was a real torture. We used to learn up to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. There's an exam every Friday. So I would call it a knowledge torture chamber. High pressure, high temperature, but survival. So 1 year it was absolute. But today also in most of the universities, which are great universities, my grandson used to say, his first year was torture.
Yes.
There is an intellectual, and that is pleasant torture. I would think it was hard work. You should know, you can't afford to be sick because the exam is coming. And the problem is there may be only one textbook available in the library. How are you able to lift it before it is taken away? So I became the chairman of the library. There is an election for that. I became the chairman. I stood for it on a selfish interest that when I go to library, I will get access. So life is a string of situations for which no exceptional strength is required. But every step you take, you have to optimize the value for you at that point of time. That's how things move on. Now looking back, you can say, it's comfortable and all that. It's not so. At that moment, when the action is being performed, you are tense. You are nervous.
What was the duration you spent during the training?
1 year.
1 year of training. What are the best experiences you had? Probably 2 or 3.
The first the experience was, it is a totally novel experience for us. None of our teachers, all of them were working scientists. They never had a B.Ed degree at all. So they were not formal teachers. And when a scientist takes a class, to some extent it's an unstructured class. He or she is conveying the state of art with respect to his experience. So for you, we are all accustomed to college lectures. This question, these are the MCQs or these are the answers. Here, this is an open-ended situations. So that was a learning curve, an absolutely learning curve. And to live with the unknown, what is the end result of an experiment which is going on? Only data will show after that. So preparing a mind for a research culture, an uncertain research culture, and most of us were not prepared to accept that. So that was a great learning curve, and which we absorbed and internalized, and we found that that's our way of life. So that's that which normally colleges don't teach. We can't learn it in the colleges. So the medium of learning, the manner of learning, that was very different. And of course, we also learned the Russian language. That is a compulsory subject. That Nina Potapova has to be learned for 1 year. All other subjects will be for 1 month. Russian was all through.
So why everyone was learning Russian?
This is a question which I have not thought of. But it has been taught from the first batch onwards. Now I don't think they teach Russian. It had an impact when I look back historically. The first batch training school, one person called Dr. M.P. Parameshwar, who is the leader of the people science movement, arguably the best people science movement in the world, which we call the Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad. He was a first batch electrical engineer. He learned his Russian well. He was deputed to Russia. He stayed there for 3 years for his doctorate. There he found that the Sputnik revolution was there. All the translations were in Russian only. There was no English there. So he found out, or he discovered, that science can be best communicated in the regional language or mother tongue. He came back to India, told all of us, from tomorrow onwards, I am forming an organization. So everybody has to write one article in your mother tongue on the latest in science. That started in the 1967. That was the beginning of the regional language science movement in India. Then it became a major movement. He resigned his job. He went back to Kerala. He started the Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad is known to everybody. So this education in Russian in the training school was one of the catalytic effects which Dr. Parameshwaran had and which got amplified historically. It became a people science movement in the country. In fact, Dr. Bhabha would never have envisaged an accidental byproduct of his training school becoming a major mainstream activity.
What was that accidental byproduct?
Dr. M.P. Parameshwaran learning Russian, going to Russia, finding out the Russian Revolution in mother tongue and transplanting it in India.
People science
People
movement.
science movement, which is an entirely different track. And that an electrical engineer had their engineering mindset and that mother tongue together and a passion that science should be communicated to the people in their language. I think that's what inspired all of us. He said, let 100 flowers bloom. And he called 100 of us, come every... And 100 people knowing one language went behind him. And he started in all languages. He inspired in other languages. We have a Federation of Indian Language Science Associations doing that. So that is another as science communication. In fact, what is more important is the honor given to the scientist. More honor has to be given to the science communicator who took it to the people. I hold the view that science communication is more honorable than science itself. Doing research, increasing the knowledge capital, great. But that knowledge capital should be shared with the society. And that is the scientific social responsibility of a scientist. So scientists have this added, they have to be bifunctional. Puts the frontiers of knowledge and transmit that knowledge to society. So that is the ideal scientific personality which we can think of.
Sir, I have seen I have seen your photo with Stephen Hawkins. So how was your interaction with him?
No interaction with him. You can only look at him and put your question on.
So
that.
when did you met him?
She visited for a conference in Mumbai. So there was a reception in Taj.
Okay.
So we went more as visitors to see him.
Okay.
Because
he cannot communicate.
Yeah. But there is an accidental byproduct. When a very celebrated journalist asked me, called me aside, can you tell me in one sentence what he has contributed to the world? So that was a challenging question. The journalist asked me. So I was like, how to say in one sentence? Yes, he derived the whole quantum integral for the universe. I just said that. That single sentence doesn't mean anything. So that was an experience for me that science communication has to be, in one sentence you cannot say certain things. I'm just seeing an instance associated with that event. Then I knew, yes. Later, when I went to London, I saw the tabloid kept on its burial ground. That equation was the equation for entropy. 3 constants. S is equal to all constants have come on. That makes you think about the larger dimension.
You also had an interaction with Sunita Williams.
These are all very short term, in a meeting we sit together, we discuss, and that the number of people we have gone through. You would have met a large number of people in this time. Are you able to remember all the people who I would say they are situational relationships. They are situational relationships. You are in a place and time simultaneously, and therefore, of course, at that time it will be very pleasant technical conversation going on. But it will be impossible for you to retrieve that conversation or information because this is a continuum which is moving on. At that moment, you will be thinking all about her work and her contribution and explaining it to the people. So this is one of the celebrity problem.
Sir, you mentioned that, and as you believe in it, that science communication is a bigger responsibility, as important, if not more than doing science. What do you think are the hurdles that India today is facing in terms of science communication? Why is science not so accessible? And if it is accessible, why is it not reaching to the people at ground level?
Very true. Now there are 2 components to this. Science, pure science, blue sky research, fundamental science. If we are trying to explain that to the people, that is only at a cultural level. They are not going to do, people will not start research on the next day. But the products of science, which is technology, the opportunities available based on that knowledge should be made. Now, if I say science communication is more important than science, today if I say, it is a selfish statement because I cannot do any science. So I am finding more virtue in science communication which I can do. So I am trying to renegotiate with myself and justify my action. So leave aside that. But I feel a minimum science capital is required for every individual. I would say there is what is known as Program International Student Assessment, PISA test, which India has not taken so far. A 14-year-old girl or boy anywhere in the world has a baggage of science. That is the minimum baggage size we should have to lead a good life. So if that 14-year-old child, that's called the PISA test, that is based on a condensed science course. Till the age of 14, you should have a strong grounding for you to take off into liberal arts, to humanities, law, or whatever you want. You take your choice. But have a strong foundation, and that's enough. So that is the one which we are trying to give to the students. The next generation science standards. And that next generation science standards is slightly different. It's not physics, chemistry, biology, maths. It is physical sciences, life sciences, earth and space sciences, and engineering sciences. It's divided into 4. And the minimum required, the critical mass required for every subject has been defined under the next generation science standards. If you follow that, that's the best basket which we can buy for our schools. I believe that next year India will be taking part in the PISA test. Then we will come to know where our educational systems and our 14-year-old girls and boys are standing. Then only we will get a metric for this.
Sir, today if you see, till 12th, most of the students, those who pursue science, they at least are trying to do something in science, although clueless. But after 12th, it feels like there is a division happening. Actually, even after 10th itself, the segmentation happens to become an engineer or doctor. Right, there is that joint entrance exam for engineering, and there is NEET examination for medical. Right, and then there is the third category, which most of the people are not so motivated to pursue, that is natural sciences or basic sciences. Right, how do you see this segmentation happening, and why is this race happening in India to become engineer, doctor?
I think you should put it in the framework of an economist, supply and demand. There is a social demand for a certain profession, so all of the mill. After some time, it will become overcrowded.
Just like it is happening for engineering.
It's happening. So we have, then those professionals will have to unprofessionalize themselves and get into another profession. So the life cycles of certain professions. But if you become an expert in that field, then you should be, that's a different one. But average people, when you get into a crowded profession, will have to think of side business also. At the moment, our educational decisions, which is largely parental, grandparental, is a strong function of the income of the family. Let us accept the fact that a child's education is, I would say, strongly correlated with the family income. So that's one constraint. Now, given the choice, then a respectability. What is society's value? Whom will a society admire? A school teacher, a doctor, or an engineer, or an IAS officer. So you will find among among your society, some people who are sought after. That is the second. Ultimately, they have to find out if you have to lead a life of, let's say, up to 80 to 90 years, and you are learning up to about 20, 22 when you get your master's. So between, let us say, 25 to 95, 70 years, what will you do? So you have to plan your life. Parents have to do it. And parents will do at the initial stage. Thereafter, as soon as you get into the open world, you should be able to find out what is the future. There is an unknown future, there is an unknowable future. So in that known future, which direction it will go? And probably skill sets will have to be constantly renewed, and you should be prepared for changes. That's the, in fact, we also, you should be resilient. In fact, every student is being asked to become resilient. I suggest that it's not enough you are resilient. You have to be anti-fragile. Anytime you may break down. So you should have, beyond resilience, you should have anti-fragility. I can withstand any stress by transmuting myself. I think that would be the mindset. In fact, most students should have 5 mindsets at least when they enter, not one mindset. You should have minimum 5 mindsets. Physics, science, applied science, engineering, technology, economics, liberal arts. So keeping it. And I think liberal arts will help many students come through because they can pick up their choice professions. So it's very difficult to give a definitive answer on how the education, because educationists are toying with this idea what best is to be done. Probably the best product, optimized product we are getting in terms of NEP 2020. And that too by a space scientist. So probably the most scientific approach has been applied to education, and we must be getting from that.
Sir, how do you see the industrial revolution that came to India, industry setting up, these IT companies booming, everyone wanted to do a B.Tech. Now, the AI revolution is there. You have experience of 40 years working in DAE and traveling across the world, seeing all these revolutions happening, changing the job market scenario. What will be your advice, and how do you see this AI thing taking over in the future?
I wouldn't like to hazard a guess on AI revolution because it is just at the crust of it. All I would say is this: make its essential toolkit part of your profession. If you are trying to miss it, you will miss the revolution. But if you are going to dive deep into that, little caution. Know it, understand it, and also be a good active user of AI. Without that, you cannot survive.